Welcome back to the Hotelier Lounge Podcast. We give you direct access to the world's leading hotel and hospitality experts, helping you create a one-of-a-kind experience, generating 5-star reviews, increasing your bottom line, and setting you apart from the competition. And now your hosts, thought leaders in the interior design industry, Liat and Siegel. This week, we're speaking with one of our amazing guests, Carrie Thornton. She's going to be talking to us a little bit about the accessibility and disability industry. She's going to tell us a little bit about who she is, what her background is, and give us some fun insights. So you have traveled a lot, and right? Is that correct?
Yeah. Traveling is my favorite expensive hobby. Basically, I work a bit and then I travel, and then I travel and work, and then I just travel and whatever. I love traveling, and so I can't kind of ignore what I see just from an occupational therapist point of view, even when I do go traveling. So I've actually been to all 8 continents, because New Zealand is its own continent, though most people just say 7.
Really? New Zealand is considered a continent?
Yeah, New Zealand is its own continent, but New Zealand is the only bit that's above
what I did see on the Google Maps, right? Because I was looking it up. I thought it was near Australia, and I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah.
So I was like looking up, and I was like, and I was looking. I did see that. Yeah, it does have that own like landmass underwater.
Yeah. And so and I went to Antarctica, and it's funny because most of my development as a human being has come from traveling, in that I was in Antarctica, and so that was my 7th continent, because they hadn't revealed that New Zealand was the 8th at that point. And I had been saving up to go there, and I got there and I was like, what is the point of living after this? Because you've been to Antarctica. It's amazing. Of course, there's other places that I wanted to go to, but it was such an amazing experience to be in the middle of nowhere, absolutely, completely surrounded by sea, and then see this one bird flying over this, flying in front of the boat. And so it got me thinking, and that was kind of where the vision for my business, Whole Support Services, came from. So I came back from Antarctica and I did my master's, and then I've been setting up my business this year. And all the time, it's been about the fact that the current systems are not helping people. The current way of doing things isn't working. So when I'm in the health system, we don't get to talk about the issues. We don't get to talk about holidays and planning trips. We get to go, oh, here's your bed, this is what we'll be removing. And and we just go basic because of demand. And I just didn't enjoy working like that. I really want to help people actually get through the whole spiritual, emotional, crazy, chaotic journey that having a disability is, and to really keep families together, because we're seeing in our outpatient clinics that at 3 months out of 100 people, 100 people have their partners. 6 months, 75 people have their partners. 9 months, 50. A year, 25. It breaks up families. Yeah, it breaks up families because the systems do not support the family.
Wow.
And so, obviously I'm talking about my experience, and some people might argue that they had wonderful support from this country or this service or whatever, but I'm just talking, if it isn't working for you, I've noticed, and I'm going to do something about it.
Yes.
And even if it is working, I'm sure that there are so many times where it's not, that just adds all that stress. And we know, anyone who's been married knows that there's a lot of stress that can come in a relationship to begin with, especially once kids are involved and you have all these different bills coming through. And now suddenly you have this whole new world of foreign world of things that you have to start taking into consideration, and just adds all that additional emotional and physical stress and strain on a relationship. I can't imagine what so many of these individuals are going through. It's really, anyone who is really dedicating their life to living with an individual with disabilities, all the more power to them. And really, it's an incredible deed, because it can be really, really difficult for the individual himself or herself to handle themselves in these situations. So to be able to be supportive and to be able to be there for them, I think is really, truly incredible.
Wonderful, yeah.
It's really incredible.
And it's also, you know, the identity of the person who's acquired the disability and their journey and how they need to change their life to keep doing the roles. Because how do you parent children if you can't speak anymore? You know, children are pretty tricksy and they, you know, and so trying to keep the family dynamics healthy and happy. And, you know, we know that adverse childhood events increase people's risk of ending up with chronic illnesses and disabilities later in life.
Yeah.
So what they define as what they define as adverse childhood events is something traumatic. Now, losing your parent as you understood your parent is traumatic, however you lose them.
Yeah.
And so the need is there to talk to the children, to talk to the parents, to talk to the grandparents, the aunts, the uncles, you know, to really get the family involved so that everybody can help these children to move forward. Otherwise we're just putting another generation up for trouble when they hit their 40s, 50s, 60s.
Wow.
It's huge.
It's really a huge, I mean, I think we're just also scratching the surface here, because it sounds, from what I'm hearing, there's just so many.
This is so involved and
involved in so many different aspects.
Not to even mention, I mean, just to touch on the experience of the consumer coming into the hotels and into your hospitality spaces. We are in this generation, and what we're seeing right now, the trend is a holistic experience. Gone are the days where the hotels, you know, are these mass produced. I mean, there are hotels that are, you know, these massive chains and whatever, but the modern day
they're
consumer,
struggling. Those hotels are going to, if they're not struggling yet, they will be struggling more,
because the modern day consumer wants an experience. They want transparency.
Yeah.
They want to have this holistic feeling and this level of love and connection and these touch points, whether through texture and design. And, you know, if a hotel can cater with that experience in a holistic kind of way to people with disabilities, how much more impactful is that going to be in their healing process?
And I think we can also see as well that consumers are, and what I'm kind of calling on able-bodied people to do is to go, I'm not going to fly with or stay with or purchase from a company that I observe treating my fellow human being in a disrespectful manner.
Wow.
You know,
that's powerful.
Because that happens if we see, I think there was an airline where there was a fight or
there was a couple of them.
I think it was a trend.
I'm not mentioning it, but ultimately, you know, that puts people off because they're thinking, oh, why do I want to go with a company that obviously would do exactly the same thing to me had I been in that situation? That's what we need to think about. Like, if they're going to treat anybody badly, they will treat you badly. It's just a principle of
purchasing
or something.
Exactly. And it's purchasing and using our spending power as consumers to invest in the businesses and the companies that are heart-centered and that are focused on the holistic approach and that are focused on seeing us as individuals and seeing us as a relationship, right? To build that connection with for repeat business and not just a number. you know?
Yeah.
So I believe that there's that everyone has someone in their family, a close one, a loved one that is suffering with some sort of a disability or another, and is impacted by, has been or has at least been exposed to someone being impacted by this. I think this is something that can really make an impact. You know, the whole hashtag Me Too, that was the campaign.
Yeah, very interesting that you mentioned that Me Too campaign, because one of my unpleasant customer service experiences was when I was on a boat and we were on a walk, and one of the crew members asked if he could visit me in my cabin.
Oh my gosh.
Yes. What? And I was like, great, you've just ruined my trip, because I'm stuck on a boat with a guy who is a creep. Yeah. And you know, and again, it's that whole, it's cultural, you know, I mean, so I report it, but ultimately
there's nothing cultural about being a creep.
No, exactly. And just I felt so horrified, because disability, when it comes to mental health and post-traumatic stress disorder and you know, sexual assault and all those kind of things, they can be disabling. But again, it's not in the way that you observe.
Wow.
Exactly. Yeah. 100%.
So powerful.
I think it would be so powerful if everyone, at least, you know, everyone who is able to be vocal about this and start some sort of a hashtag campaign. I'm not sure what it would be called, but
you want to do the honors and
we'll have to think of a name.
And then we'll post it as like what, you know, those headlines that go across the screen while you're you're watching the news. So we're gonna have our editors put that into our YouTube video and have that come across across the screen. I think
like we said before, it really boils down to awareness. People are not aware on how widespread disabilities really are, because we don't understand what disabilities really mean. We don't understand what it covers, most of us, right? So we're thinking disabilities, we're thinking
wheelchair,
exactly. And as a result, most people are not aware that people in their own family or their own circles, at least, are disabled, and if
in some sort of way,
and are impacted adversely because of that.
Right.
And
one of the concepts that
exciting
is that, you know, you can have an impairment, which is that, you know, you're missing your pinky.
Right.
Now, that's an impairment.
Right.
What activities do you need your pinky for? Well, if you're a piano player, you're disabled because you can't play the piano with a missing pinky.
Right.
So your ability to participate is that you work in a orchestra, or I mean, maybe they don't have pianos. Now I look really dumb. If you work in a cabaret bar playing the piano, then you've lost your job. You know? And so you've become disabled by the impairment, but also if on top of that pinky you are also in a wheelchair and you can't access the cabaret bar, you've become disabled by the environment.
So
a lot of people will not be disabled if they are in the right environment. If you have a lower bench top and a lower cooker, then you will not necessarily be disabled in a wheelchair for cooking your meals, because you can access the tools necessary.
Can we just repeat this, because this should be like in a blog post, when we are going to make this a blog post, because we're going to take this content and put it also on our blog for our visual readers, our visual audience as well. But this is going to be a quote.
Okay.
This is a quote.
The pressure.
But this is everything. This is
really it's a huge point.
You
can have an.
You say it again. Say it again, Carrie. Go ahead.
Okay. So you can have an impairment, which is something on your body that is not working properly, and that may or may not stop you from doing activities.
Yep. So you're impaired by your environment.
Yes.
You become disabled because
by your environment.
That is so massive.
Yeah. If you have If your environment takes into consideration the impairment that you have and the activities that you need to do and the roles that you need to play in as a father, mother, employer, aunt, uncle, you know, if it takes into account those three things, like what is the impairment? So maybe you're obese, or maybe you're in chronic pain and you can't walk too far, or maybe you're in a wheelchair. That's the impairment. What activities do you need to do? You need to be able to get up, get washed, get dressed, make food for yourself. So if we put you in an environment where you can get up, get washed, get dressed, and make food for yourself, you're not disabled.
Wow.
But if we put you in an environment...
Holy moly!
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is crazy!
And I think this should be something that all other designers or contractors listening to this should really take note of, because if you can offer services that when you offer your package to your clients, whether it be it individuals, you know, consumers, or in the in hotels or other locations, if you are doing that kind of work and you can offer a package, let them know I have a package that specifically is catered for people with disabilities to make them no longer disabled, right?
Yeah.
So so if I can create, if I can
I'm
offer
taking away your disability.
Yeah, I
like,
you know,
what?
why should there, if someone is a chef and what they love to do is cooking, and they own a restaurant, why should I not have the ability to design for them a restaurant that can
exactly
your cooking?
Exactly.
Right?
It's actually really possible. The products exist already.
Exactly. And it just
wow, my mind is blown.
Just a mindfulness and letting people
but
know
also,
that I'm mindful of it, that I think that would just perpetuate.
And environment doesn't just mean physical environment, of course. It means the institutions and the societal norms, what your government does, what your culture does. So the environment is kind of social, and your family. So that in itself, just people beginning to understand that actually, because especially for the invisible disabilities, for example, consequences of sexual trauma, i.e. post-traumatic stress disorder, or for veterans and things like that, you know, going into an environment that's maybe perhaps a casino or off the top of their head, and being hit upon by waiters, or with all the flashing lights and bangs and crashes, or it's not pleasant, and it could be something traumatic. It could, or maybe the problem with trauma is it's not that it's traumatic now, but it brings back the trauma
and
that
it
you
triggers.
Yeah,
it triggers it.
Yeah, and so, you know, people need help and support to work through those things, but they're not going to come and tell every Tom, Dick, or Harry about them. And they're not going to be like, oh, could you please make sure that there's no gunshots in the neighborhood where I'm staying? You know,
wow.
That's also very interesting, because you do have PTSD, people with post-traumatic stress disorder, you know, military veterans, etc. That, you know, are a big part of a conversation nowadays. You know, I wonder what kind of innovations can be innovated to help individuals with these kind of traumatic disorders, that might not be a physical injury, but more of a mental injury, something that was just so impactful that is affecting their everyday life.
And one of the key things that we talk about if somebody has depression or anxiety or post-traumatic stress disorder is, in order to help functioning, we look at things like routine, but also exercise, and, you know, there's certain work that we do around the different beliefs. But, you know, like we said right back at the beginning, a holiday is a culturally normal activity for most people, to take some time out and go away and do something different. And yet we're excluding people from this situation. And, you know, actually being somewhere that has a nice look to it, that feels luxurious, you know, can be part of the self-care routines that we might get somebody to start. But the whole idea of somebody else doing your cleaning and going out and seeing other sites and learning new things, meeting new people and being treated nicely, that in itself creates that love and connection that perhaps somebody with depression feels that they're missing. You know, if it's not
that holistic approach. Yep.
Yeah, so it works with the holistic approach, and showing the consideration and not assuming that everybody's fine, and not assuming that everybody's not fine, but just thinking about if somebody is very anxious, or in how they talk to you, kind of thinking, well, what might be behind this? You know, there are obviously people that are just going to be rude, so-and-sos, and that's all,
right.
You know. But there are also probably people that, if they're in a very stressful situation, have run out of resources except the animal instinct of self-preservation. And so if that's what you're seeing from somebody, there's ways that you can handle that still leave both of you with dignity. You know?
Wow. It's so beautiful. It's so healing.
Yeah, and it is, and that's what people want. People want healing. Nobody wants to be excluded and marginalized and have prejudice against them. Nobody wants to be treated badly.
Yeah, and I see that in we have a method that we use at Hadar Interiors, our design firm, called the ROAD method. It's the return on emotional design. And basically it's taking into consideration the emotion and the touch points that we have with our environment around us, and how it could be healing, and how, just even the texture and colors and the psychology that goes into behind all of that really it's a return on our investments of, making our spaces beautiful, making it a space of healing. And that really just furthers the point of the ROAD method, that it's even more impactful for those with disability.
Yeah. And why should somebody who has a disability go into a bathroom that looks like the one they had in hospital?
Right.
No, I mean, I
don't know if you're interior designing hospitals, but hospitals have a function, and again, there's a medical system that aims to do particular tasks and not a holistic experience.
Exactly. And
I think we'll see a change in that soon.
I think that's going to change. Yeah, because there's no reason why, if you are a hotel that is offering beautiful facilities, why you should have a bathroom that looks
sterile,
and boring and just functional but not beautiful. And because there's, like you said, there's so much available now out there to make it both functional and beautiful, and there's really no reason to cut back on that. And I think I think really the point that I kind of keep on seeing in our conversation coming up again and again in my mind is that the first thing that we can all do that is impactful is begin the conversation. We should start the conversation. Anyone who is listening, who may be disabled themselves,
or know
someone, and if you have the ability within you, I know it's not easy for, like you said, for everyone to speak about it, but if you have that ability to talk about it and let people know what you go through, let people know, the struggles you may face on a day-to-day basis. Just bringing that awareness alone, I think, is going to really shift people's mindsets, like we see that is happening with the Me Too campaign, like that is happening with the campaigns for veterans, rights. There are
any social justice.
Social justice campaign, because it's really a shame that it's such a massive segment of the population. And I know I'm talking about an entire spectrum, which is, from A to Z, but it's a shame because
like you mentioned, inclusion is inclusion. What works, we're not necessarily going to notice that you've taken out the stairs because we never thought that they would, we're not going to notice, but the people that can't do stairs are going to notice. So, and the other thing that's very interesting as well is rest homes, because they are accommodation and they become people's homes, and they're not hotels. Some of them are kind of fancy like hotels, but they're a whole different ballgame. And actually my master's project was about young people living in rest homes and how they could, if they tried, meet the needs.
For our listeners that don't know what rest homes are, can you explain?
Oh, that's a facility where you have probably 24-hour care available to meet your medical needs. Or
got it. Like a rehabilitation center?
No, more one where you live, like a nursing home, you might call them, or a geriatric care facility, or I can't think of what other words you'd use.
Yep, those are it.
We call private hospital, which is or a hospice. Hospices are a bit better because it's end of life care, but it's a place where a whole bunch of people who are maybe over the 65.
Assisted living.
Yeah, assisted living. Yeah. But again, they can be quite institutional. They can be not so flash on the design, not so flash on the customer service.
They're there for, like you said, for functionality and nothing more.
Yeah.
It's
and baby boomers are demanding more, and there is a very nice trend of them looking better, but still there's the issues with the customer service, and there's still plenty that can be done to make them look nicer. But what I find interesting is that what we are trying to do is not to speak on behalf of people with disabilities, because that's what we've done for years. So I would be incredibly interested to hear from people who have disabilities about how they want us to speak.
Yes. Hearing that feedback is so massive. I think the first 2 action steps that our listeners can take away from this amazing conversation is, 1, have the conversation to begin with, right? And ask.
Bring awareness.
Right, sensitively ask. And number 2 is find out, speak to your consumers, speak to your audience, and find out how what you do can play a better role in their holistic healing and just life embetterment and quality of life.
And what you really have to remember is that if you've already excluded that population group, it's going to take time to find them and to encourage them to come in.
Wow.
Because they're assuming, they did do an internet search, they've never even thought about a holiday, like you were saying about your father.
Right.
It's just a non-issue. So yes, there will be some people that have come to that point where they're going to make it happen for themselves, break through those barriers, create a holiday for themselves because they're at that point in their journey. But you're also going out and trying to find the people that aren't at that point in their journey and say, how can we help you get to this point where you will take a holiday?
Right.
Wow.
And why should it just be in a camp that's specifically designed for disabled children?
Right.
Exactly. Why should disabled people only holiday with disabled people?
Wow.
Right. That's a great point.
Wow.
And those are great points. And I think we do have the ability nowadays with technology to find where most people with disabilities, different types of disabilities, are congregating, because everyone has a place online where they go, whether it's
or targeting them with ads, even asking, how can we help you?
And I think that, and it doesn't have to be, like you said, it doesn't have to be just by facilities designed for people with disabilities. It could be regular hotels that have options for individual disabilities that should go out there and let people know, hey, you're looking for a place to go. We understand.
You need, and
our staff is trained to assist you and to know.
That's huge.
Imagine that if I'm just trying to imagine what it would be like, and I'm sure I can't even begin. But if I was in a position that I needed real help, I would love to know that the place I'm going to is prepared. And
without having to search and call and find out
and it's also, some people are taking along carers from an institution, from a service, an organization, so that it's not necessarily their family. So even just, how do those carers, where can they go on their time off? How can their shifts be managed?
Wow.
Some things, there are going to be, maybe we don't have to start with the people who have the most complex life situations. We could just
taking a step.
We could just start with the people that are excluded because they can't afford to stay in 5-star accommodation, which is the only accommodation that offers them a wheelchair bathroom. Just giving them a few more options.
Exactly. And I think that, everyone, all of our listeners should know that done is better than perfect. So it doesn't even mean that we need to fully, completely redo our spaces and our businesses, but rather take the step in the right direction to make that happen, get data back from our customers. How can we continue to improve improve a little bit more.
Also, I mean, how presumptuous to go and alter it and then go, oh, look, we've altered it for you. And it's like, did you consult us? Did you ask us?
Right.
Were we ever going to come to you because you're so arrogant?
Right.
And this is really what it comes down to, right? It's communication. If we communicate
and
collaborate, right? Because as long as we're communicating, we're collaborating, we're speaking, we're looking for what is needed, and then not just like we're going to put up a little sign on our website saying we're wheelchair accessible, but we're going to let you know what kind of services we provide. So if you are an individual with disabilities, you can know, hey, we have plugs next to your bed for a CPAP machine. We have the ability for you to come, for an easy access
to
for
get
a wheelchair.
Into the swimming pool,
to the shower. If you can let your consumers know that you're listening, that not just that you are accessible, but what kind of accessibilities you're providing. You're saving them so much heartache and so much, the need to call, the shaming, all that.
I definitely think that we have to go. There's a lot of people that you have to go to because it will not be on their agenda at the moment because of their current stress levels, and just the too hard basket, So actually, even competitions and hosting opportunities, doing discounted rate, just trying to enticing people in and see how it goes might be attractive to people. But ultimately, I feel that in the future, we need to not be making life difficult for people, regardless of their age, their gender, their sex, their disability, because that's the right thing to be doing. Great. Everybody deserves a chance to have a good life. It's part of the Human Rights Act, and yet we manage to ignore so many. I mean, you literally couldn't prosecute all the human rights violations.
Right.
That people, and I don't even know that they will ever be able to bring all of their human rights violations to case. And but we got together. We got together as a community to say that we think that there are some human rights, and this is what we think that they are.
And being an example, being leaders.
Yeah, exactly.
How other people should.
And I think I actually have another suggestion that might really help places that are looking to innovate or looking to offer more or looking to even try it out and connect with the right organizations. There are so many organizations out there that are offering currently help or assisted living for individuals with disabilities. Reach out to them, speak to them, ask them what would you recommend us, what isn't available, what would you recommend us to do to try to change to be able to cater more, because instead of reinventing the wheel in this case, right, reinventing the wheel and trying to come up with a solution yourself, there are so many solutions out there. Speak to the people who know already,
the industries that are innovating already.
I know I have friends and family that are working in these fields, that are working in special homes, for individuals with assisted living, people with really, they're really low functioning, but I know I have friends who work with also higher functioning individuals, and I know that these places, that's all they do. I mean, they work around the clock to find places they can take the individuals when they're younger to vacation, to have fun, and connect with them, find out what they're looking for, what would make their lives easier, and give them special packages. Let them try it out and test your facilities. Make sure that they can offer what you think they can offer. Exactly, right? And really try to innovate, because I think, like we started off, is there's so much room for growth in this area, and it's not just room for growth, it's a need, it's a necessity, and it's something that's our responsibility. It's really a basic human right to be able to not be shamed, to be able to live like another human being, go to a place without having to think 100 times over, if this is going to work for me, and doing 100 Google researches to find out if they really have the right kind of facility for my. So I think that it is
and
possible.
that can be communicated so much through our social media campaigns,
absolutely,
through our website, through our branding videos of what the facilities are like, what interviewing in the brand videos, interviewing the staff and you know, seeing what their personalities are like, and if they would be sensitive, you know, to individuals with disabilities, or the wide range of different types of consumers coming to stay at your space. So
and I would just want to add to that if if this is something that you feel that you are not capable of, you don't feel capable of helping individuals with disabilities, you don't feel capable of communicating with them, then I think you should really reconsider the way you serve your customers, because if this is something that is not possible in your mind, then you really have some massive holes in your customer service and the way you do your business. So I don't mean to criticize, but I really do think that I know
it can feel overwhelming. I mean, as I explained, it's a different spectrum of things, but that's why when I work with companies, I break it all down much more simply.
Right.
And we just do one step at a time. We don't have to take on the world.
Right.
Of course.
We can just go, okay, well, so maybe your clients are predominantly older people, and you put them on the 14th floor at the far end, 200 meters away from the lift, and then when they get out of the lift, they have to walk another 600 meters to the restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
Not so helpful.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, so just
smart design.
Lots of things you can start from where you are and make 1 change, 2 change, 3 change, 4 change.
To get 100%.
So it's what I really don't want people to do is to think that, well, we don't want them anyway, because that's what society has done for years. You know, no, I don't want disabled people in my life, in my hotel, I don't want that to be the attitude.
Yes.
Until you realize that
they're too much work. It's not true.
Until you realize also that your loved ones are amongst them. And suddenly it hits home. That's why I think it's so important to really start that conversation, because
and recognize
that everyone knows so many people that
exactly. When you look at it as the full spectrum of disability, and a lot of people, you know, who acquire a disability do not necessarily believe that they identify as having a disability.
Yep.
But if you are unable to complete various parts of your life as a result of something, then you are disabled.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so if you had a depression and you're no longer able to go out and complete join a sports team, you're disabled because it's something that interests you and you're not able to do it because of this condition.
Or if you feel uncomfortable going in public because of your own body image.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that's because society has created as disabled people and created this ideal body. And, you know, and as I said before, it doesn't help you achieve it. Blames you if you can't get it.
Yes.
But most people that are working in the real world, you know, are actually struggling with health conditions. And even if you're not struggling now, if you're on the hamster wheel of chronic stress, you will be struggling later. And I'm trying to get people off the hamster wheel of chronic stress. You know, that's, you know, the crisis of a medical condition, and I'm talking like significant medical conditions, more so than, oh, you just broke your leg.
Right.
But that can obviously be stressful and create issues. But the crisis of that is accumulation of lots of events prior to this for most people. You know,
we can lessen that. We can lessen that through our businesses, through the environments that we create. I mean, I know for myself.
And customer service at the bank, you know, all these people that are getting so stressed and crying in floods of tears, and, you know, because your customer services is terrible and they're desperate.
Yes, right. I'm going to design differently from now on. Like, this is definitely going to change my perspective, and the way we design this is going to change forever.
And especially also I think we're going to try to create a package ourselves that will be much more mindful. We're going to seek out companies. This is going to be
our
I think we should definitely seek out companies that offer these type of facility equipment, these type of
create partnerships with them.
Yeah, I mean, just overall mindfulness, I think it's so crucial, and there's no reason that this day and age we shouldn't have those things available.
It all works in together. Ultimately, it's kind of there, but for the grace of God go I. Like if we are going to get older, things are going to go wrong. Why the things that we want to do and the way that we want to interact with society will be challenged if we become medically unwell.
Right.
So it's in our own best interests to help those people that have already had this situation happen to them, because ultimately we're following them.
Yeah.
If you really want to be self-seeking about it, then fine. You're protecting your own future and being able to do what you want to do. But ultimately, I'd rather people just cared that other people are not being treated fairly.
Right.
I'd rather people just cared that was a problem.
Yes.
Yeah, and the internet doesn't help me too much with that, right? So sometimes we should use that same tool that people are becoming more numb by to create more attention and bring more attention for those who need our hearts. They just need consideration. They need love, and they don't. Last thing they need is making their life, like you said, more stressful.
Yeah.
Well, Gary, it's really been a pleasure speaking with you, and we've learned so much. Can you let our listeners know, how they can learn more about you and your business, how they could get in touch with you if they want to learn about becoming more aware
or working with you?
Working with you,
yeah. I mean, I'm absolutely really excited to work with anybody that actually cares about others in the world. So because I'm in New Zealand, I am on a different time zone. So obviously we do have to do a little bit of thinking around meeting up. But my email address is wholeservices@outlook.com, and hopefully you can maybe put it somewhere.
We're going to put it in the show notes.
Yeah, cool. And
do you have a website?
I do have a Facebook page called Whole Support Services.
Okay, we'll link that also in the show notes for you.
And I have a website which is still reasonably under construction. So it's better to talk to me. Which is wholesupportservices.co.nz.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect.
And
I'm on LinkedIn under Kerry Thornton.
Perfect.
Excellent.
Okay, so we'll put all of that information in the show notes.
That way, anyone who wants to connect with you, anyone who wants to just learn more, like you said, and become more mindful, and anyone
and I'm definitely used to working on Skype and video conferencing. I mean, I'm not going to object to somebody flying me to their hotel to help. I will not object.
We will definitely encourage that for any listeners that are listening.
But I'm used to doing things over the internet.
Especially if our listeners have the right kind of hotels and they would like to show up their facilities, we encourage you to invite Carrie over. So and
also I know the people that are looking for the knowledge about these facilities.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. Exactly.
From Bridge. So
you are the right person to invite to their hotel. So by all means,
I will not object to that at all.
So oh my gosh, it was really, really such a pleasure having you. And I think that we're definitely going to have you on again in the near future.
Whoa, I would love to. Yeah, I mean, I really, I know that it can feel overwhelming for people, and hopefully they're thinking, oh my gosh, and don't feel bad if you've been a terrible person before. That's okay. We're just learning and growing.
We've all done, things we're ashamed of at one point or another.
Yeah, we've all been inappropriate.
What's important is that we're evolving and that we're growing and that we, I think that's the whole point of podcasting and just interviewing people is, I love this. My husband and I love this so much because we get to learn and we get to become more aware and remove a little bit more and more and more of our ignorance, and I think that our listeners are going to be the type of people, I hope that they're caring, that their ethos is that they're caring, loving people that want to make the world a better place. And I think those are going to be the people that are going to be attracted to our podcast, because specifically we're talking about innovation. And to be innovative, you need to you have to be of the growth mindset to think and be an expansive thinker, and always want to learn, and always want to grow, and always want to improve yourself. And people that listen to podcasts are always people that want to improve themselves, because they're like, well, what can I learn now? How can I grow? How can I improve?
And I know, I mean, I've worked in restaurants, and I've been around many of these facilities in the hospitality industry, and like you said, there's so much room to improve and to move forward. I mean, I know that everyone has heard at one point or another about people who have the CNI dogs, having issues getting into facilities like that. So I think just starting the conversation alone is very, very powerful. Becoming aware of the needs of individuals with special needs, I think, is huge. So
there's so many things that that are available to discuss and to think about, and so it really does help to kind of have a plan and have some guidance to think about things, and have that discussion with the communities that you're trying to help, rather than just kind of think out your own head what they might possibly want.
Exactly.
The mark.
Right. Correcting the old myth: don't do for others what you want done for you, but do for them what they need done for them.
Exactly. And and what's also very interesting is that we come from a society that has only very recently begun to change. People have been asking for change for centuries, and now it does feel like it's moving a bit faster than those previous centuries.
Yeah, it's making up for all of that.
But we've got a lot of time to make up for.
Not fast forward right now.
Yeah, exactly. So, nobody needs to feel bad. This is the perfect example of how you are part of your environment. If your environment has never made you think about these things, right, because that's the way it works on a social, political, economic level, then why would you? And one of the things when I'm working with the families is that I'm actually saying, the development of a chronic medical condition or a acquired medical condition, it's a spiritual process, because it throws your whole world out of sorts, and you are forced to grow. You just can't ignore it. Whereas many people might get away without growing. They can just do the humdrum same. They don't have to think too much about personal growth and development. When this is what's in your family, and your family's at risk of being torn apart, you have to grow.
Yes.
And it's not going to be comfortable, but I'm there to provide the support, and these other services that are heart-centered are there to help people.
It's really something that I've observed firsthand with seeing families with children with disabilities, especially the ones who brought them into their home as foster families, the impact that these children have on the family, not the other way around. I mean, of course, we know the other way around, that these families have provided so much and given so much to these children, but the impact that these children have on the families that bring them in is so massive. I see the kids and the parents, they have such massive hearts, and the mindfulness that these children bring into the family, the heart, the care and understanding, is something that we can all use, a lot more of. Yes. And this is what your business really focuses on, correct? Your business really helps, it consults with other companies to help them be more mindful of the needs?
It's twofold. One is that I'm working with companies to help them improve their
facility.
Their facilities. And the other one is that I work directly with families that are struggling
as well.
Because again, and also if I've worked with you on your facility, well, then I go to a family and I'm like, hey, this is the only facility I know of because I worked with them. Or, here's 2 or 3 in this area, but this one I've heard of, I know this is one that I think could help.
Thanks for listening to the Hotelier Lounge Podcast, where we make it our business to help you increase your business. Head to thehotelierlounge.com to catch up unlock our exclusive offers, and access show notes for all of our past episodes. You can also visit our LinkedIn or Facebook group to continue the conversation. If you have any questions, comments, or if you'd like to be featured or become a sponsor, visit thehotelierlounge.com. We hope you enjoyed today's show. Have a powerful rest of your week. See you next time.